Olivier Thompson had always been known in the family as the dependable one. Ever since a tragic car accident claimed their parents' lives when Olivier was 24 and his younger brother Ethan only 16, Olivier had stepped into the role of protector, sister, and best friend all rolled into one. Overnight, Ethan became Olivier's entire world, and she vowed to do whatever it took to give him a life filled with love and stability. The years flew by. Ethan grew into a tall, handsome, and confident young man, just coming into his own. Olivier was now 31, living alone in a cozy flat in the quiet English town of Ashford, working as a marketing consultant. She went on dates occasionally, but nothing ever seemed to turn serious. Ethan had recently completed his architecture degree and had just landed his first major job at a firm in Canterbury. They still talked regularly, with Ethan visiting on weekends or calling late at night to chat about life, work, and dreams. They were close, inseparably so, but Olivier could never have expected what Ethan would ask of her on that rainy Saturday afternoon in April. She was curled up on the couch, wrapped in a soft cream throw, a steaming mug of Earl Grey warming her hands. The faint scent of cinnamon from a nearby candle mingled with the rhythmic tap of raindrops against the windowpane, creating a peaceful atmosphere. An old detective series played quietly on the TV, one she had watched dozens of times before. Just as she was about to drift off into her own thoughts, the doorbell rang sharply. No one was expected. Opening the door, Olivier found Ethan standing there, soaked through, his navy hoodie clinging to his lean frame, hair plastered to his forehead. His expression was serious, not quite the usual confident grin she was used to. "Hey," he said with a small, tired smile. "Ethan? What are you doing here? You should have called. I know. I just needed to talk. Can I come in?" She stepped aside, letting him shake off the rain and hang his hoodie by the door. His usually bright blue eyes looked weary, shadows beneath them betraying restless nights. "Everything okay?" she asked, handing him a towel and gesturing toward the couch. He sat down, drying his hair slowly. "Yeah, I guess. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately and I needed to talk to you in person." Olivier sat next to him, studying his face. "What's going on?" He took a deep breath. "Promise me you won't freak out." That immediately made her nervous. "Ethan, just tell me." He hesitated, then spoke slowly. "I know this is going to sound weird, maybe even inappropriate, but it's been on my mind a lot. I thought maybe I should just ask." "Okay," she said cautiously. Turning toward her with a low voice, he said, "Olivier, I've never really had someone I could fully trust. Not that I don't trust you. You've always been there for me, supported me. But I feel like I've missed out on a lot. Things other guys my age have experienced. And I don't say this to hurt you or make things awkward, but I was wondering if you'd be willing to help me understand something. Something personal." Olivier blinked, heart pounding. "Ethan, what do you mean?" "I've never been in a real relationship," he admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "Not physically. I've always been nervous, doubting myself. I don't want to mess things up when it happens. And I thought maybe, if you don't think it's too weird, you could help me understand what it's like to be close to someone I trust." She stared at him, stunned. Her heart hammered in her chest. "Ethan, that's not something people normally ask their siblings that I know," he rushed on. "And I don't want things to be weird between us, but I can't think of anyone else to ask. You've always taken care of me, and I'd never do anything to make you uncomfortable." Olivier stood and paced the room. "That's a lot, Ethan. I don't even know how to process it." "I get it," he said softly. "If you say no, I'll understand. I just didn't want to carry this around in my head any longer." She looked at him, vulnerable and raw, not the confident young man she had grown used to, but the scared 16-year-old she once comforted through nightmares and heartbreaks. Sitting down again, closer this time, she took his hand. "Why now?" she asked gently. "Because I feel stuck," he admitted. "I go on dates but I freeze up. I don't know how to act. I'm ashamed I'm so behind. I thought maybe this could change everything. If I just had one chance to understand what intimacy feels like with someone who won't judge me." Olivier took a deep breath. "That's so far from anything I ever imagined, Ethan. But I also know you wouldn't come to me if you hadn't thought this through. I have." He whispered. Silence stretched between them, heavy and electric. Her heart battled her mind, but deep down, a strange warmth blossomed. Maybe it was because she always saw herself as his protector. Maybe she just wanted him to finally feel confident and whole. Slowly she nodded. "Okay." His eyes widened. "Okay, just this once. And only if we agree on clear boundaries. When it's over, we never speak of it again. Understand? He nodded, visibly shaken but resolute. Absolutely. That night, the rain slowed to a drizzle, and the sleepy town outside felt still. Olivier lit several candles to soften the mood, unsure of what to do next. Her heart raced as they sat on the edge of the bed, facing each other, both unsure how to begin. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't passionate. It was real. Ethan was gentle, nervous, attentive. She guided him patiently, teaching without pressure. It was never about lust. It was about connection and healing. He whispered thanks over and over, telling her quietly how much it meant afterward. They lay in silence, side by side. The air felt heavier, charged with unspoken emotions. She turned to him and brushed a damp strand of hair from his forehead. Are you okay? He nodded, eyes glossy. More than okay. Thank you, she smiled faintly. This changes everything. We have to be careful. I know. I won't make it weird, I promise. The next morning they drank coffee and talked about normal things, his job, a funny email from a client, the weather. But something unspoken hovered between their words. And somehow it didn't feel wrong. It felt honest. In the weeks that followed, they never mentioned that night again. They slipped back into their old roles, Olivier, the older sister watching over him, and Ethan, the younger brother building his adult life. A few months later, Ethan started dating someone, a sweet woman named Sarah. He told Olivier he finally felt comfortable in his own skin, like he knew how to be confident and open. When Olivier met Sarah, she hugged her warmly. Ethan always talks about how amazing you are. He says you helped him in a way no one else could. Olivier just smiled. He was a good man. Inside she felt peace, not because of what they had done, but because she knew she had helped him cross a bridge he couldn't have crossed alone. It was unconventional, maybe even unthinkable. But sometimes life doesn't fit neatly into rules and tidy boxes. Sometimes the love we give takes unexpected shapes, and all we can do is choose compassion over convention. Years later, Ethan and Sarah married. Olivier stood in the front row, watching her younger brother hold the hand of the woman he adored. When he glanced at her during his vows, there was something in his eyes, a silent thank you without a single word spoken. But as the church bells chimed, a shadow flickered at the edge of Olivier's mind, a secret she hadn't expected, and a question that would haunt her for years to come. The morning sun filtered weakly through the lace curtains of Olivier's flat in Ashford, casting delicate patterns on the hardwood floor. The scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the faint aroma of lavender from the little sachet she kept in her dresser drawer. She sat at the small kitchen table, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly while her mind replayed the wedding day from the previous afternoon. Ethan had been radiant, his smile wide and genuine as he exchanged vows with Sarah. The warmth in his eyes when they met hers had stirred something deep inside her, a mixture of pride, tenderness, and an unspoken complexity she couldn't quite name. She wrapped her fingers around the cup, feeling its comforting heat against her skin. The flat was silent except for the faint ticking of the clock on the wall, marking time in a way that seemed both steady and relentless. Olivier's gaze drifted to the window, where the garden outside was just beginning to wake, tiny buds swelling with the promise of spring. The peaceful morning was shattered by a sudden, sharp knock at the door. Olivier frowned. She wasn't expecting anyone, not at this hour. Setting down her cup, she moved to open it. Standing on the doorstep was a man she didn't recognize. He was tall, with a rugged look, unshaven, wearing a worn leather jacket and a faded baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. His face was weathered, his expression serious, almost grim. "Excuse me," he said, his voice rough but polite. "Is Olivier Thompson home?" "Yes, that's me," she replied cautiously. My name's Mark Daniels. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I need to speak with you. It's about your brother, Ethan." Her heart skipped a beat. Despite the years, the protective instinct surged instantly. "What about Ethan?" Mark glanced around nervously, then lowered his voice. "Complicated. I knew your parents before the accident. There's something you should know. Something that might change everything you think you understand about your family." Olivier's breath caught. "I don't understand. What do you mean?" Mark hesitated, then pulled out a worn envelope, yellowed with age. "This came into my possession recently. It was left to me by someone who wanted it to reach you, to tell the truth." She took the envelope, fingers trembling. The handwriting on the front was unfamiliar but authoritative. She opened it carefully, revealing a bundle of old photographs and a folded letter. The pictures showed her parents, young, vibrant, but with expressions that didn't match her memories. One photo caught her eye, her mother standing beside a man Olivier had never seen, his face sharp and intense. The letter was brief but chilling. Olivier, if you are reading this, it means the past has come calling. There are things left unsaid, secrets buried beneath the surface of your family's history. Trust no one blindly, and beware the shadows that still linger. The truth is far from what you believe. Olivier's mind raced. Who had sent this? Why now? And what shadows were left lurking in the corners of her family's past? Mark looked at her solemnly. There's more to your parents' story than what you were told. And it's not just about the accident. She swallowed hard, the weight of the envelope suddenly crushing. I need to know everything. Olivier closed the door behind Mark. The rain began again, soft at first, then gathering strength. Outside, the streets of Ashford glistened under the storm, each drop carrying secrets waiting to be uncovered. And deep inside Olivier, a new resolve was kindling. If the past was coming back to haunt her family, she would face it head-on. No matter how dark the truth, no matter what it cost. Because some secrets refuse to stay buried forever. And some mysteries demand answers no matter the price. The rain hammered steadily against the windows as Olivier sank into the worn armchair by the fireplace. The envelope and its unsettling contents spread across the small oak table before her. The flickering flames cast dancing shadows, making the photograph seem to shift and warp in the dim light. She traced her finger over the faded edges of the pictures, her mind struggling to piece together the fragments of a story that felt both foreign and intimately hers. Her mother, Eleanor, smiled in the photos, but there was an unmistakable tension in her eyes, as if she were hiding something urgent beneath the surface. The man standing beside her in the most striking picture had a sharp jawline, dark hair slicked back, and eyes that held a dangerous glint. Olivier didn't recognize him, but something about his presence unsettled her deeply. She unfolded the letter again, rereading the cryptic warning. Trust no one blindly, and beware the shadows that still linger. The words echoed ominously in the silence of the room. A sudden chill crept over her, despite the warmth of the fire. Olivier's phone buzzed, jolting her from her thoughts. It was a text from Ethan. Hey Liv, just checking in. Everything okay? She hesitated, her thumb hovering over the keyboard. How could she tell him there was a stranger at her door revealing secrets that threatened to unravel their entire past? Instead she typed all good. Just a quiet evening, she set the phone aside and leaned back, her eyes drifting to the rain-soaked window. The storm outside mirrored the turmoil inside her. A tempest of questions with no clear answers. Suddenly, a sharp knock at the door shattered the quiet once more. Olivier's heart raced. Who else could it be? She opened it cautiously and found herself face to face with Sarah, Ethan's fiancée. Her usual warm smile tinged with concern. Olivier, I'm sorry to bother you so late, Sarah began, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. I just had to see you. Ethan's been acting strange lately, distant, distracted. He won't tell me what's wrong. Olivier closed the door behind her and gestured toward the sitting room. Think, I might know why. Sarah's eyes widened. You do? Olivier hesitated, then decided to trust her. She showed Sarah the photographs and the letter. Sarah studied them carefully, her brow furrowing deeper with each passing second. This is heavy, Sarah said quietly. Do you think it's connected to Ethan's behavior? I'm sure of it, Olivier replied. There's something about our parents, something we never knew. And I think Ethan's starting to uncover it, whether he wants to or not. Sarah nodded, her hand tightening around a mug of tea. We need to figure this out. Together. Over the next few days, Olivier and Sarah began digging into the past, visiting local archives, speaking with old family acquaintances, and piecing together a narrative that was increasingly complex and dark. They learned that Eleanor's mysterious companion was a man named Richard Mallory, a figure with a shadowy reputation in the region, rumored to have ties to clandestine dealings and secrets best left forgotten. One evening, as Olivier scrolled through faded newspaper clippings, a headline caught her eye. Mallory linked to unsolved disappearances in Kent. Her stomach twisted. Could her parents have been involved in something dangerous? Or worse, victims of it? Just as she was about to close the article, her phone rang. It was Ethan. "Liv, we need to talk," he said, voice low and urgent. "I found something. Something that changes everything." Olivier's breath caught. "Meet me at the cafe near the station." Now as she hung up, a cold determination settled over her. Whatever secrets their family held, whatever dangers lurked in the shadows, she and Ethan would face them together. But as Olivier grabbed her coat and stepped into the stormy night, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching, waiting for the right moment to strike, and that the past was far from finished with the Thompsons. The cafe near Ashford's small train station was a cozy refuge from the relentless drizzle outside. Its warm amber light spilled onto the wet pavement, casting a golden glow that promised comfort. But Olivier knew better than to expect peace tonight. She pushed open the heavy wooden door and scanned the room, spotting Ethan sitting alone in a corner booth, his usual confident demeanor replaced by a tense, guarded posture. He looked up as she approached, eyes shadowed and intense. "Thanks for coming," he said quietly. Olivier slid into the seat opposite him, keeping her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "You sounded serious. What did you find?" Ethan pulled a small, worn notebook from his bag, flipping it open to reveal pages filled with neat, precise handwriting and sketches. "This belonged to Dad," he explained. "I found it in the attic last week, hidden in an old box I'd never seen before." Olivier leaned in, her curiosity piqued despite the knot tightening in her stomach. "What's in it?" "Details about his work before the accident," Ethan said, voice dropping further. "He was involved in some kind of project, something secret. There are notes about meetings, people I don't recognize, and a lot of coded language." Olivier frowned, her fingers tracing a diagram in the notebook. "Project Shadow? That sounds ominous." Ethan nodded grimly. "Exactly. And there's a name that keeps coming up. Richard Mallory." Olivier's heart skipped. "The same man in those photos." "Yeah," Ethan said. "Apparently Dad was trying to expose something about Mallory. Maybe that's why the crash wasn't an accident." Olivier blinked, the weight of the implication settling over her like a storm cloud. "You think someone wanted them gone?" "Maybe," Ethan whispered. "And that someone might still be out there." Suddenly, the cafe's door creaked open, and a tall man stepped inside, shaking off his wet coat. Olivier's breath caught. The man was Mark Daniels, the stranger from the other day. His eyes locked onto theirs, a flicker of urgency in his gaze. "You need to be careful," Mark warned as he approached. "They're watching. And they won't hesitate to silence anyone getting too close." Olivier exchanged a glance with Ethan, the unspoken agreement crystal clear. They were in deeper than ever as the rain intensified outside. Olivier felt a surge of determination. The past had clawed its way back into their lives, and no matter the danger, she would protect her family. But lurking in the shadows, a figure watched the cafe's glowing windows, a sly smile playing on their lips. The game had just begun. The rain hammered relentlessly against the cafe's windows, blurring the world outside into a swirling gray haze. Inside, the warm light and the hum of muted conversations formed a fragile barrier against the storm. Not just the one outside, but the one gathering in Olivier's life. Mark's warning hung heavily in the air, his eyes darting nervously toward the door and windows as if expecting trouble to burst in at any moment. Ethan folded the worn notebook carefully, his jaw clenched. Olivier reached across the table, placing a steadying hand over his. "We need to find out who they are," she said quietly. "And why they want to keep the truth buried." Mark nodded grimly. "Mallory's influence runs deep. He's got connections everywhere, in business, politics, even law enforcement. Your parents stumbled onto something dangerous. That project your dad was working on. It wasn't just corporate espionage. It involved people who don't forgive mistakes." Ethan's eyes darkened. "So the crash wasn't an accident?" "Highly unlikely," Mark confirmed. "I've been tracking Mallory for years. Some of the disappearances linked to him. Your parents were probably next." Olivier's throat tightened. The woman she remembered as her mother, full of warmth and laughter, was now entwined in a web of secrets and danger that threatened to unravel everything. "Then we need to act fast," Olivier said. "If Mallory's still out there, he won't stop until this family is silenced." Mark glanced toward the door again. "There's one place you might find answers, the old Milford estate just outside town. It's where Mallory used to operate. Rumor has it there are files hidden there, evidence your parents collected." Ethan exchanged a look with Olivier. Then that's where we're going. The three of them left the cafe, stepping into the rain-soaked streets. The storm had grown fiercer, the wind whipping Olivier's coat around her as they hurried toward the car. The tension between them was palpable, each aware that their next move could change everything, or end everything. As they drove through the winding country lanes toward Milford, Olivier's mind raced. She thought of the night spent comforting a scared 16-year-old, the promise she made to protect Ethan at all costs. Now that promise felt heavier than ever. Arriving at the estate, they found it shrouded in mist, the grand but decaying mansion looming like a ghost from the past. The gates creaked as they pushed them open, and the gravel crunched underfoot. Inside, the air was thick with dust and forgotten memories. They moved cautiously through dim hallways lined with faded portraits whose eyes seemed to follow their every step, and a hidden study behind a false wall. They found a locked metal cabinet. Olivier's heart pounded as Ethan produced a small set of keys he'd found in the notebook. The lock clicked open, revealing stacks of folders, photographs, and documents, proof of Mallory's illicit activities and the truth their parents had risked everything to expose. Suddenly, a noise echoed from the hallway, a floorboard creaking under weight. They froze. "Get ready," Mark whispered, pulling a small flashlight from his jacket. The door creaked open and a shadowy figure stepped inside. The glint of a knife caught the dim light. "Looking for something?" The intruder sneered. Olivier's breath caught. The past wasn't done with them yet. And this time the stakes were higher than ever.